Elite Physique University, your source for all things physique enhancement.
All right, here we go. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Elite Physique University. I'm John Gorman, your host. Got Jason Theobald in the house. Jason, how's your day going, man?
You know what? For a Thursday, it's actually been manageable for once.
Yeah,
So that's not bad.
No, that's not, because usually you and I mean, you heard me just crack the caffeine open. I'm having a monster. And
I didn't get my usual coffee for this. I'm pretty good. I even had 40 minutes of downtime before we recorded, and I had to use it packing, unfortunately, because I'm leaving town tomorrow. But at least I don't have to, most of these I'm working right up to the freaking minute,
Yeah, no, I hear you. So don't worry. I mean, dude, trust me, there was a couple of these episodes, people don't know it, but I told you on the back end, I said, hey, man, I need you to carry the load on this show. I'm tired. I'm fucking tired. So, Hey, don't worry about it. I'll carry it on this one if I have to, if you start nodding off over there. So real quick, everyone, before we kick off our topic today, which is understanding scale fluctuations, if you ever want to hit me up, if you have a question, a topic you want to hear us talk about, a guest that you want us to get on the show, just hit me up on Instagram at @team_Gorman. Hit me with the follow, send me a message. Jason, I thought about the format of this and what I want to do. We've got, this is episode 11, around every 10 to 12 episodes, I want to kind of clean it up and just go back and do an Ask Us Anything episode. So we'll probably be doing one of those. Yeah. Just kind of clean up everything from the 10 to 12 episodes we have, do a big Q&A, and then move on to another couple dozen, because I'm still getting a bunch of questions over some of the past episodes. The reviews are just flying up there, still all 5 stars. So thank you guys. We really, really appreciate that. Jason, we talked, you didn't really have a ton of new stuff, but you are going out of town. Are you and Vince going out to speak this weekend, or is that another weekend?
We are. We'll be near Denver. We're helping educate Atlas Nutrition Group. I think they have about 10 coaches. They use our Feed for Function system, and they've been, they contacted us and said, hey, we'd really like to have you guys help educate our coaches. What can we put together? And so we put the curriculum together, and they really loved it. So yeah, we're heading out and going to do an all-day type thing on Saturday. And then on Friday evening, I'm going to train with a few of their coaches, just run them through something, kind of some of the things I do with training and things like that.
No, that's exciting, man. And that's something I have gyms hit me up for stuff like that, to go educate their trainers, their personal trainers, and some coaches there. And that's always fun. So, I mean, if people ever want to hit you up, they can. What's the best way to hit you up if they want to schedule like you to come out, or you and
I always tell people Instagram's cool, but like I'm not as good about checking that other requests folder. If they want to get me within 24 hours, jason@scoobyprep.com always works, because I'm always checking my emails and I'm always responding to people quick.
Yeah, definitely hit them up. So that's what's new with you this week. I did want to let everybody know, I haven't announced on social or anything yet, but we're going to put like a cool little graphic together, but I just got accepted to write for Iron Man magazine. For me, it's kind of a cool thing. I've always wanted to write for a major magazine, and I could have probably 4 or 5 years ago, but I just put all my eggs in the baskets that I had, and I didn't want to commit to writing. And now, I sold one of the gyms. I'm not with First Form anymore after 6 years, so I've got a little bit more time to be able to devote to something like this. So I'm going to be writing an Ask a Diet Coach column for them, which will kind of be cool. It's Q&A, just like the book that I put out. And then I'll be writing a major column too at every magazine. So that's going to be cool. Awesome. I'll cover things like ketogenic dieting, or, reverse dieting and metabolic capacity, just like the big topics. Like I'll cover a big article on those. So yeah, man, I wanted to put it out here first, and I'll make a post and let everybody know when it starts hitting the magazine. So that's going to be kind of cool. I miss writing.
Yeah, man. That's a pretty big, I don't know, cool. I'm struggling for words, but it's a cool honor, really.
Yeah, man. I mean, it really is. I mean, Iron Man magazine's been around so long, and it's one that I would read for a long time. I mean, all the way up until 2014, 2015, I was still reading the magazine. And then I just got busy and just kind of fell by the side. But yeah, man, so that's kind of cool. let's enough about us though. Let's get to the topic today. So so this is a fun one, right? I've done some talks on this before, but this is something that I don't care if you're a new coach, if you're an established coach, if you're a new athlete, an established athlete, this is something that you're going to have to deal with either yourself or with your clients or other people, and that's understanding scale fluctuations and what they mean. Because I mean, listen, man, how often, Jason, are you having to have talks with your clients every single week to talk about what you're looking at with the scale? I mean, it's rampant, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen at least, 1 to 10 times a week with obviously different clients. It's not the same people every time, but yeah, I mean, they live and die by the scale. And, sometimes it's necessary, and we'll talk about that. But many times it's just one tool and it's nothing to be alarmed about.
Yeah, and this is something, if you can, make sure that we touch on natural versus enhanced, because you just said that. I don't have that down in the notes, but shit, man, that's what our show is, really.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to talk about that with some of this stuff. With scale fluctuations, it's something that messes with people constantly. And, scale weight is a tool that we both use. I have an Excel spreadsheet that my clients send in to me, and they weigh every day, and they send it in on Monday and Thursdays. And I already have it calculated. So they just put their weight in, and it calculates their weekly average. And that's something that I look for. But man, I can tell you right now, if they're doing great, their weekly average is dropping, but they fucking go up 1 pound for one day, like that's exactly what they're focused on. Are you having to talk to you have a lot of competitors, and I do too, but your clientele is a little bit bigger than mine. Are you having to deal with that quite a bit on your end? Most of my folks are natural, so the scale fluctuations I do have to really pay close attention to in some cases. Now on your end, I know you've got plenty of natural folks, but on the assisted side, are you having to really explain it to them more? Because
especially my women. And I always even say, like, before the diet starts, I say, hey, we're employing some Anavar here. You haven't been on it for a while. You might not lose a single scale pound for about 5 weeks as you're gaining and filling back out muscle tissue. It's going to negate, fat loss. So we got to look at other things like, how are your clothes fitting? How's your weight belt fitting? How are your jeans fitting? How are you looking just cosmetically when you're in the gym, And so I tell them I'm going to need a little more help and feedback, because sometimes early on, it's hard to spot a pound of fat loss when someone's 16 weeks out, in a picture.
Shit.
So, but that, like, you as a coach or as an athlete have to have faith that you're in a deficit and that, you're taking a hormone that's going to help you actually add some muscle right now a little quicker. So you've got to be patient.
Yeah, on the natural side of things, when I've got clients, and I just tell them, because there'll be times where they are stalled out, they haven't dropped for a week to 10 days, and I'm looking at it and I'm telling them, and they're telling me, hey, I'm getting leaner in the mirror. I'm like, listen, you're natural. First of all, you've got it, especially if they've got, say 15 pounds to go still. I'd be like, listen, you can't recomp on, if you're a female, on 1,300 calories right now.
Right.
You're just not going to recomp.
Right.
You're really barely even recovering, maybe even not recovering at some point. So you're not recomping. So don't, you can tell yourself that, don't fall into that trap, but you really need to lose a pound a week, and that needs to come off. And if you're not, then you're stalled. I'm going to drop your calories, maybe add some cardio, that we've talked about that stuff in prior episodes. But man, on the assisted side, with folks that I've helped, especially back in the day, that to me, man, those pictures came in so handy, and they really needed to be the same place, the same time of day, same lighting. Like, don't do them with a pump in the gym and then send them the next day at home, with no flash and shit. Just, super, super important. I do want to go and touch on this, and then we'll talk about all the different reasons why the weight goes up, and then we'll turn around, we'll talk about all the reasons why it actually goes down too much. And that's something I've never really talked on before, so I think that'll be good. Here, let's talk about what we look for. So, and before that, what we recommend for scale weight. So I know myself, I tell my clients, and dude, we've known each other long enough, we're probably on the same page here. I tell my clients, wake up, go pee, like go to the bathroom, do what you have to do, and then step on the scale right after, naked, or if you have
Yep.
your underwear on,
Correct.
fine. And then use that weight first thing in the morning. Is that what you're asking your clients?
Yeah, that's what I do too. Just to, it's going to be the most accurate with the least amount of variables that you can get.
Yeah. The other thing too, and I've got multiple clients that'll do this and they don't think about it. But I always make sure I tell them, use your home scale and only use that scale. So like I've had, a girl that would go stay the weekend at her boyfriend's, if he lived
Yeah.
out of town or something. And she's like, hey, I'm dropping good on my boyfriend's scale. I'm like, whoa, what are you talking about? And they're using other scales. Like, even though you can track it, you need to use the same one. So I always tell people, if you travel, if you go somewhere, just take your scale with you. And people think that's a pain in the ass. But if you're in prep or you're real serious about fat loss, this is a measuring tool. Like, you wouldn't go and not take your food scale with you and just eyeball your food. So you have to really do that. Gym scales too are the worst because I've had people show up, and I don't know if you get this much. They're like, yeah, man, I'm weighing on the gym scale, and they're getting their workout in, they're doing all this, and then they're standing there in their clothes. They've already drank a bunch of
water in the belly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like 200 pounds right now on my gym scale, and I wake up at like 190.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's only at like 1 p.m. So I've had maybe 2 meals, but I'm full of water. I got my shoes on, my clothes are on. So inaccurate.
Yeah. And even if people do it the exact same way every day, it's still not accurate. Clothes are different. You may have had half a shaker more or less of water. Dude, that adds up.
It's gonna add up.
Maybe you sweat more during that workout.
Yep.
So anyway, long story short, guys, use the same scale and take it with you. Jason, I do want to talk about what we look for as far as when we're actually looking at people's weight. I kind of explained mine earlier. I have people weigh on the scale every day, and they plug it into this Excel sheet, and then it averages out their weight for the week. So I might have a female that's averaging 154 pounds this week. Next week, I'm looking for her to average 153, maybe 152 the following week. I'm not so much looking at the day-to-day stuff. I do look at that stuff because I do want to see if there's a new low in there somewhere. Maybe the average is the same, but all of a sudden she's hit a couple new lows over the last couple of days, and that tells me, hey, I probably want to go ahead and give this a little bit of time. She just hit a new low. What exactly are you looking for when you study someone's weight?
It's very similar. I don't have a calculator doing an average, but I look 7 days back. I give a nice scan of all the weights in my feed for function system. It's got a really nice layout where all the weights are right in front of me. I can see about 28 to 30 weights, and I look at the last 7, and I run it through my head real quick and make sure that we're dropping the amount that I need to be dropped. So it's not really spitting me an average, but I'm looking from a 7-day window that I want to see it trending down with the amount of weight that I've in my head, kind of figured out for the client that they need to lose in order to be ready in 16 weeks or 20 weeks or whatever they got.
So what does a stall look like for you then? So whenever you're looking at that, when do you decide, okay, and everything's spot on, by the way, the diet's spot on, their training, like everything's good, sleep's, everything they report is okay. What's a stall look like to you when you're looking at the scale readings?
Yeah, the data. So, if I'll look at like the 7 days. So like if it's the 12th, and then, the 19th. So I'll go back to the 12th. I'll look and see if there's, a proper drop. There's not always. So then I'll start looking at some of the other days and seeing if there's, we've got the drop. If I'm still not seeing it, then I'll look and see, well, maybe they hit a new low, on the weekend, and then had a refeed, or, they went back to work and it spiked. If I'm still not seeing the new low with the amount of weight I wanted to come off, then, if I don't think I'm going to see it, then I'll go ahead and adjust. I mean, there's times where I'll be like, why don't you just wait till Thursday, give it 3 more days. That'll be about 10 days. If we're still not seeing a new low, I'll go ahead and make a move. And sometimes that works in my favor. And sometimes, they truly are stalled out. Just depends how much time you have to kind of dick around with it. But that's kind of how my thought process goes in my head.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm pretty pretty much the same. Usually with my folks, I tell them, if it's Thursday and they're just, man, they've been stalled out for 4, 5, 6 days, and the weight just, I'm banking on it hopefully dropping by Monday. What I'll tell them is, listen, I need you to sleep in this weekend. And if they sleep in and they don't hit new lows and averages, then to me, I'm like, listen, I got to change it up, because if you're sleeping in and everything's on point and you're not dropping from that, and it's been a week, I'm going to go ahead and change you up, unless someone is just so far out. Um, I hate to push past 7 days, but there's been times I've had to wait 10 days when you just try and go by feel, or if it's somebody that, if you don't have a lot of room to make changes and you're like, sometimes it's the sleep that they need. That's about the only time I'll kind of wait, but I'm usually looking about seven days of data compared to the prior 7 days.
Yeah, if I know someone's stress is hard, I might wait through the weekend and give them till Monday. If it was on their Thursday check-in and they're not hitting their low, I might give them till Monday, see if the weekend more rest brings anything. And if it doesn't, then I'll make a move.
Yeah, man. All right, so let's get into these reasons why the scale goes up. Some of these will be pretty common knowledge to people, but we want to give you our take on them, and some of them are going to really open people's eyes. There's a lot of people. I have to remember, Jason, we've been doing this for so long. We've talked about this 10 zillion times, right, that we've got listeners that this is going to be new information for, or maybe it's just a good reminder. So the first one I have written down is digestion and bloat. So if you don't mind, talk a little bit about that and how digestion and bloat can kind of throw things off when everything else is just spot on.
Sure. Well, when you have digestion issues, and bloat would be like, a symptom of something else going on. Like, something's generally not sitting well with you. It's inflaming you. Maybe it's an allergy, just something that doesn't do well with your gut. You're going to be inflamed. And a lot of times, maybe you're not going to the bathroom consistently. That can, that gut problem can obviously cause the scale to hold up. You could be inflamed to the point where you're holding water as well. So, those would be like pretty much probably the two main areas where I've seen, like gut issues affect weight loss. And then of course, if it's a gut issue that's been going on for a long time, then it starts to affect hormones. And then obviously you've got, another problem that it was created from the gut that is reason why maybe you might be holding on to more water. Cortisol could be off, then just things of long term because of inflammation that starts to cause other issues. But just in the intermediate, a lot of times you're looking at some sort of water issue, or constipation is building up, and that will obviously affect weigh-ins.
Yeah, definitely. I know one thing, since I've kind of switched to, I kind of switched back and forth between, kind of like a FODMAP type diet to a modified Mediterranean, just for overall health. When I do throw something like gluten back in, for example, and listen, guys, we've had so many assholes over the last 5 to 10 years saying, gluten is 100% fine. You can have it, but listen to me. Cut that shit out from your diet for a month or two, and then throw it back in and see what happens to your fucking digestion and how much bloat you have. Yeah. Maybe you don't. I don't know, but I can tell you right now, myself and my clients, whenever I try and free up their digestion and trying to kind of fix that, and I put them on I know, Jason, you're real big on a FODMAP type diet. I like modified Mediterranean. I like both approaches.
I like both too.
Yeah. Whenever I throw some gluten back in, I'll have these homemade pizzas. I do it myself, but dude, the fucking gluten's in there. It blows me up, man. So,
oh yeah. I mean, I was in the off season and got bored with my typical rice cakes, cream of rice, and jasmine. And I started doing Ezekiel, bagels. I think I grabbed a cereal too. And I, for a minute, forgot, why am I losing all my, I just wasn't hungry. I didn't want to eat. My eggs sounded terrible. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then I just realized, I'm bloated out. I'm not moving food through as well easily as I was, in the past. Went back to my typical, standby carbs, and here came the hunger, and here came, my taste for my food that I always like. So,
yeah.
I'm not one of those guys that if I just do, a glute, if I went to Mexican and ate the, shell and blah, 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 I'm not one of those guys who's going to be miserable, oh God, I had gluten and I'm gonna break out in rashes. I'm not really that, but like, if I go eating it day in, day out in a good amount, from those carb sources, yeah, it was affecting me.
Yeah, man, me too. So the reason why I bring that up is, if you've got clients or if you're just trying to pay attention to yourself, take a real close look at what you're eating. If your scale's going up, and if you feel like you're a little bloated, and that also comes back to you mentioned constipation and being backed up. Normally, when someone's weight's not doing what I want it to do or it's up, I send them a whole list of a lot of the stuff we're talking about now. And one of the things I ask them, are you backed up? Are you going to the bathroom like normal? And usually, if some of these other things don't show up, I'll get, and I see it more in females. It seems like they get backed up a lot easier
Yeah, they do.
than guys. So I'll normally see it with them. So then when I know that, hey, if they're backed up, I mean, you can be up a pound and a half. Like it just depends. You have to hold water to get everything to move through. So you're going to hold that when you're backed up. So that's something I'm constantly asking females. Let's move on to another one, Jason. This is one that I really started to pay attention to back in 2010 with my clients when I started really getting more entrenched into monitoring their weight, and that was muscle soreness. So talk about what soreness does and why people will see that on the scale, because we both work with lifestyle clients, and we've got those folks that we put them on a new training plan, or they're just getting back into it. Maybe they lifted for a long time and they took a few years off. Like those people are going to be sore as fuck for a while. And talk about what that does on the scale.
Well, I see this a lot, or more common after like a leg day, because it's half your body. And a lot of times people, when they get into this, they weren't training their legs as hard as they need to. And so when they really get a coach who puts a proper program, they're going to have some pretty sore legs, and it's half your body. Gravity's affecting it too. And what happens when you're, that incredibly sore? Again, you're going to have inflammation in the area. The body's going to take on water, and, they're going to be a little puffier, and you see the scale hold a lot of times after like a leg day.
Yeah. And just soreness in general. So like my new folks, I always tell them, they're like, I'm so sore. Sometimes it's the first 3 or 4 weeks if it's somebody that just hasn't been in the gym for a long time. Or maybe I've got a client doing a deload and they chill out for that week. They do a few high rep workouts, maybe 2-3 days a week, and they just took some time off. And then they come back in and they're hitting it 100% again, and they're a little sore for the first few days. Well, yeah, that soreness causes you to hold water to repair the damage done. So you're going to hold some water. And that's one that I think, a lot of people, they just don't realize.
Right.
Something else you'll notice on the notes I put in here, newer people who are new to training and they just haven't really been training hard. So like maybe some lifestyle clients. So if you're a coach out there and you're getting new folks, because whenever you start out as a coach, you're not going to start out with a bunch of bodybuilders, a bunch of people that know what the hell they're doing. You're going to get a bunch of, Joe and Debbie that are moms and dads that just want to lose 20, 30 pounds and look good again. So when those people are new to training and they start eating enough protein, but then you've got them on a carb-based diet, most of the time that's what people do, you just see them start to fill out with glycogen. If you have them on any kind of supplementation, which we're going to get to with creatine, they're salting their food, like all these things, their muscle cells actually start to fill out. Is that something that you ever have to talk to with your clients, or are you not really having to deal with that too much with some of the newbies?
Well, I do try to, if I'm putting someone on a supplement, that may affect their weight at this point in time, I'm just trained. I'm like a trained monkey. I always put, this may affect your weight. And then that way I know that it's going to like cut down on my questions about it.
Right.
But yeah, like I try to always give a warning, to those types of supplementation that like, yeah, you might gain a little here, but it's intramuscular. That's what we want. It's going to, you're going to be able to feel the muscle better when you train. Therefore, you can get better results. It's okay. So I try to remember to give those warnings, especially if it's people who have never used that before, or I think they might not.
Yeah. And even just somebody that, if I've got someone new and they're eating 6 meals a day and I've got them eating, I don't know, 4 to 5 carb meals to start.
Yep.
They're going to fill out with glycogen because they haven't been training. So like they're going to actually see a little bit of increase there. let's go ahead and skip down to let's talk about creatine first of
Yeah.
all. Creatine causes people to hold water inside the muscle cells. I mean, there's still that old misconception where people think that you need to cut creatine out to drop water or not, but that's just not how it works, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it causes you to hold
Creatine
water.
is going to put, water inside the muscle cell. And therefore, you're going to obviously hold more water on the scale. I mean, it's going to show up. What I think sometimes happens to a very small few, and I think that's where it came from, is some people don't respond as well in terms of their GI to like creatine monohydrate, and they do better with like, a product like creatinine or something.
Right.
But just changing the form will take away that belly bloat that they're feeling and help there. But the way creatine works, just from the science standpoint, it's more water in the muscle cell. But some people mistaken a bloat feel that, they're holding more water in their belly, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe it is more in the stomach. But if you go to like a creatinine, it'll solve that 99.5% of the time.
Yeah. One we don't have to spend a lot of time on. I'm just going to keep going down the list here. Obviously, people need to think about muscle gain. So, I have to remind my clients. I just reminded 3 or 4 of them right now. We're reverse dieting. They're getting into the off season, or they're deep into the off season, and we're adding calories, and the scale's slowly going up. Well, that's the point of off season. Whether you're reverse dieting just to prime your metabolism, or you're trying to put on a little bit of size, the fucking scale's got to go up. We talked about in a prior episode, I can't remember which one, about how much we want to see most people put on. And that depends on if you're natural or assisted.
Yes,
we don't have to go down that route now because it's a 20-minute conversation. But if your goal is to gain, the scale's going to need to go up a little bit. Jason, one you wanted to talk about is sleep, and that's a big one. I have to talk to my clients too about. Let's talk about low sleep and what that does to the scale the next day.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple of things going on with, when you don't get the same amount of sleep. One thing right off the bat is during sleep, you're detoxifying your body, your kidneys are at work, different processes are going on, and so you're removing water that you've gained throughout the day. So once you urinate in the morning, like, you should be at your driest weight. But let's say you normally sleep, 7 hours a night, and for some reason you only get 5. Well, you didn't have as much time to run through all the detoxification, to pull as much water as you normally do. And so, when you go to the bathroom in the morning, you probably won't shed as much water, and therefore, the scale is going to be a little higher. But aside from that, more on a hormonal level, it's been shown that one night of pretty poor sleep will increase fasted, blood glucose numbers. So you string a couple nights of really shitty sleep together, you are going to make yourself less insulin sensitive, and therefore the diet you're eating you're not going to be processing it as efficiently, and more blood sugars are going to be circulating, and therefore easier to spill and just hold more water all around the board. And, have more inflammation as well from that. So sleep's really important, to the point where, there's times where I'll pull cardio just so my clients can rest more, and I'll make them get to bed 9 hours, that they can get 9 hours in on the weekends, and almost, I'd say 85% of the time they wake up Sunday to a new low just from getting enough sleep. Cortisol comes down, insulin sensitivity improves. They're just recovering their body, and I see new lows from that a lot.
Man, I go on record as saying it's my number one plateau breaker is getting people to actually sleep in on the weekends. Man, whenever people don't sleep, like you said, that maybe they only sleep 5 hours one night and they've used to be getting 7, that scale is going to be up the next day. Like, they're going to see that on the reading. So that's they may be 155s for normal, and then all of a sudden they don't get 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and then they're like fucking up a pound or 2, and that's real common. I'm so sensitive myself. If I get 1 hour less of sleep, I'm up exactly a pound. Like, it's just the way it is. If I sleep in, I drop a new low and hit I'll hit 208 instead of 209 if I get 1 extra hour of sleep. So it's one of those things to where, like, you see it kind of play around with the scale. Another one I've got down, man, is high stress. Like when people go through high stress situations, like maybe some shitty stuff happened at work, or you're fighting with your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, whatever, and you just got some really bad shit going on for a few days. That's going to translate to the scale as well, just because of cortisol being the way that it is. Obviously, the products that you make and that I've been recommending for a while now, Relax and Cordy's will help with sleep. They'll help with cortisol. But man, sometimes they can only do so much. Like if someone's stress is super fucking high. Any recommendations that you have for someone that's going through a highly, highly stressful situation outside of supplementation and trying to get a good sleep aid?
Well, I mean, something that helped, me when I'm watching my HRV, and for those who don't know, it's heart rate variability, and it's one way to track basically how you're moving in and out of parasympathetic versus sympathetic. Sympathetic being flight or fight, parasympathetic being rest and digest, which you want to spend, all your downtime in parasympathetic, is meditation. And, it doesn't have to be this like crazy, like thing where you need an hour. You can, I use an app called Let's Meditate. It's free. And they have guided meditations that, a lot of them are 15 minutes long. If you can rock in 1 or 2 of those a day for yourself, where you're getting your breathing down, that's helping you get parasympathetic. They teach you how to breathe properly. And one of the things is your exhale needs to be longer than your inhale. And that's going to help put you more in a parasympathetic state. And so I've seen that help myself, relax and get that HRV improved. And, if you're able to switch into parasympathetic easier, you're going to sleep better. It's those who get stuck in sympathetic are those ones who are always like, God, I just can't turn my brain off. I lay down and I can't, well, that they're stuck in sympathetic overdrive. So, it's something you can do for free. It doesn't really require, you could get 2 sessions in throughout the day with literally just about 25 minutes set aside. So that's a big one. And then I know you said no supplements, but I will start megadosing ashwagandha with our Cordy's if someone's having just a huge stress period, and it does help people a lot.
What are you dosing on that? About
1,500 mgs, the ashwagandha, and then 2 to 3 Cordy's, and I might do that 3 times a day for them.
Gotcha. Back to the breathing. I know people. It's almost like sleep. Like when you tell people, like, here's the fix, and it's fucking free. Like most people hear that and they hear, all right, this is some hippie shit. You know what I mean? It's not. What next time you lay down, try having just try it. Look it up. I don't know how long you recommend, Jason, to exhale versus inhale, but if it's longer on the exhale, 4 seconds and 1 second inhale, however you want to do it, try doing that next time you lay down instead of like trying to read your phone to fall asleep or read a book or whatever. Every time I do that with breathing, like I'm fucking out like a light. Really just kind of settles my body down. Is there a certain
the one that I've read that supposedly works the best for sleep is if you're laying there on your back, is a 4-second slow inhale, hold it for 3 seconds, and exhale for 6. I mean, you don't have to be exact on it. Just make sure your exhale's longer, but somewhere along those lines, a nice slow inhale. You're not forcing it into your lungs. Hold it for a bit and then slowly let it out, and you'll start to calm your heart down.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm actually going to try it. I had been doing 1 and 4. But 1's probably a little short, so I'm going to try that. I'll try 4 and 6. We'll see how it goes. Let's go on here to the next one that I've got written down. Sorry, here I'm looking at my fucking notes that I just missed everything. So let's talk about the fun one, women's monthly cycle. Guys, don't fucking go anywhere. I know you're trying to fucking hit fast forward, but if you're a coach, you need to understand this. Obviously, ladies, some of you have been having a cycle for decades. Okay?
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, you want to fucking email us and be like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. You got exclamation points all over your emails and you're freaking out, but you've been having a fucking period for decades. Like, you know what's coming. Like weight's going to go up a little bit and before you start. Some people, it stays like after the first couple of days they start. Like I've seen so many cycles that are different. Like women usually sometimes they'll be up for a few days prior, a day or two after they start, and then it starts to fall off.
Right.
Jason, what do you normally recommend for women whenever their cycle hits? I know I tell mine, I'm like, listen, we're just going to push through. Like, it's okay. It's artificial weight. I'm not going to change anything.
Yeah.
What do you recommend? Is there anything you recommend to them to like work through bloat? Do you increase water? Do you recommend anything like that?
Not really.
I don't either.
I'm like you. Like if someone's in an off season and their period's hitting, I'm certainly not gonna add food that week. There's no point. It just creates more stress and could add to the bloat. If someone's in a cut, and they're stalled out and they have like you said all the exclamation points and they seem just frantic. Like my first thought is always like, are you getting near your period? And then like 90% of the time, oh yeah, I am. It's like, you're 45 years old. You've been having this for at least 30. I don't ever say that, but it's just funny when you started to talk about it. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the bloat and all that, I don't add dandelion. You can add like dandelion tea and different things like that. I generally don't. If they have something that they like to take, like Midol or something, I don't care. But I'm not usually, making big dietary changes. I mean, we all know that, when progesterone spikes and estrogen spikes, the woman is less insulin sensitive. So,
Right.
I mean, you could go pulling carbs every single time, but it's hard to keep up with, and it's really just one of those things that it'll all just kind of average out and even out.
Yeah, I don't worry about it too much. I do want to talk about sometimes, like if a female, especially natural females, right? Some of them will lose their cycle as they start dieting down and they start getting close to stage or they get pretty lean. I've still, even though they don't have a cycle anymore, I've still had women report the symptoms
Yes.
of the bloat, the cramps and stuff like that. And I'll see it on the scale.
Yes.
I've seen a couple of my bigger girls, some heavy girls with a lot of muscle, like they'll hold 2 or 3 fucking pounds. And they're telling me, they're like, listen to me, I swear to God, I'm not cheating on the diet. I don't have a cycle, but I feel these symptoms. Is that something that you're seeing too on your end,
Yes.
Jason?
Yeah, I've been seeing that for years.
Me too.
And so it definitely happens. I definitely, concur with them every time and say, yep, that can be happening. So that's what it is. It's fine. Let's just, stay logical and just, work through it. But that is definitely something that can happen.
Yeah. And ladies, by the way, your coach isn't out there to fix these symptoms because it's just not fucking anything that we can do. I've had a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do to offset this? And I'm like, fuck, I can't do anything to offset it.
I mean, the thing that we can do, and I do with pretty much all my dieting females is, chaseberry will help with PMS symptoms and just make periods easier anyways. And a lot of my women are going to be on that for the cut because I don't want progesterone to dip. And then I obviously use Cordy's to stop the progesterone rob. So a lot of my women keep their period deep into prep, and then that way I can get it back quicker. So that does, like, so I can't ease your bloat, like, for a day or two per se, but if I know it's something that's really bad and you get really bad symptoms, well, chaseberry will help, and we can get them on that for a long-term solution to have easier periods.
Right. And one thing that I meant was, like, we can't make those things go away. Like, I don't know why you're having the symptoms, but you don't have a cycle. That's what I was trying to get to. Like, by the way, Jason, you need to come out with a chaseberry product so we can just.
We are.
Oh, good.
We got chaseberry liposomal coming, so it'll be able to get into the body a little quicker. You hold it under the tongue, and so we've got that.
Good. I'm tired of sending people to Amazon because I don't know what's good product over there or not.
I was sick of doing it too. So now we've got, and it's going to taste great, and it should be really hitting probably in the next 5 weeks or so.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. We'll keep the females and coaches tuned in because that'll be a good one. Dude, let's talk about salt, man, because it's one of those things. I've had clients come to me before. They're on a very low salt diet, or they're with a coach that had all their salt super low. It's funny because I just made a knowledge bomb of the day, everything you need to know about salt, and it's getting shared. Yeah, it's getting shared everywhere. It's just because it's good information. but we get these people that come to us low salt. Maybe they just don't know any better. Maybe they don't like salt.
No, there's still a few coaches that I know. I'm not gonna name names, but they literally think you should pull sodium the minute someone starts dieting.
Jesus. So
I know these are old school dudes that like don't care to learn, and like that's what they think.
So
and that's why their women after the show are up 10 pounds within a day. You know what I mean?
Oh shit. Well, so that's funny you mentioned that, because we see that on the front end. Like when people start working with us, we add them, I have my folks add sea salt and seasonings to their food. I want to make sure salt's in there. It should be. And, they're the ones that respond the most to this when it comes to holding water, because they haven't had salt for so long. It's almost like they spend a short amount of time kind of ballooning up for a little bit, and then it kind of settles down and kind of comes out in the wash. Is that what you're seeing on your end?
Yes. When you add sodium in 100%, like you're going to spike, but then like once that sodium potassium pump and everything starts kicking in and doing what it's supposed to do, the weight evens right out.
Yeah. I'll see some clients that they'll kind of water over. They'll kind of look, almost like spilled, like they've had too much.
Yep.
Carbs, and they'll be a little watered over for 3, 4, 5 days, maybe a week, depending on how bad it's been for how long. Then they start to kind of clear up, and then they feel great, and they start reporting all these things in the gym. I'm stronger, my pumps are better, I look better. It's kind of like creatine as well. Like people report the same thing. I look better using creatine. I see the same thing with salt. Is that what they're reporting back to you?
Oh yeah. I mean, salt is one of those things, like I'm getting ready to, one of the things I'm teaching this weekend is on peak week. And, one of the things that I used to fix someone on Saturday morning is more salt,
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like, 9 out of 10, if you're in shape or you can add salt and it's going to improve the look of the physique. But even like if you're not show ready, but you add it on a daily basis, once the body shakes out and gets back in equilibrium, you're going to look better. You're going to have more pumps. Your muscles just going to be fuller. That's how it's going to shake out.
Yeah, man, I've got a few more here, and then we'll talk about the reasons why the scale drops too fast, which will be fun. Another one, we don't spend a lot of time on this, water intake just being off. I'll notice people on the weekends will report back to me on Monday, hey, my water intakes has been off. And, sometimes it just depends. It depends on how much it's off. That can actually cause people, when you go back to drinking water, to retain some water. Sometimes if someone's water's off, they'll drop too fast. But it's one of those things to where I just tell my clients, you really need to pay attention to your water intake and then just tell me. So if you're a coach out there, you need to pay attention to that, whether their weight's up or down. It's one of those questions I always ask, like, hey, how's your water intake? Yeah. Is it pretty normal, or is it off? Is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, just water in general, by keeping it in, you're basically keeping aldosterone at a nice, even keel. When you start to cut back on your water, aldosterone will finally start to raise because it's trying to keep you from becoming dehydrated. So, you can just, manipulate that by just keeping water going in on a daily basis. And, you're going to pee out more than you hold, and it's going to look better.
By the way, let's just give recommendations real quick and I know everyone's a little different, but just general recommendations. How much water do you recommend for a female physique athlete and a male physique athlete? Not with the outliers, not a 280-pound men's body.
Yeah. I mean, I think a woman should shoot for a gallon. I think a man should shoot for a gallon and a half, somewhere around there. But, if a man comes in at a gallon, I mean, it's plenty to flush his kidneys and keep everything healthy. I just, they're bigger and, can use it.
Yeah, that I'm right there. Same exact thing. One of the things people need to pay attention to, and that people don't think about it, sometimes my clients, their scale will really be all over the place. And I'm asking them, like, listen, are you fucking cheating on the diet? Like, why is it up 4 pounds? Why is it down 6? Like, what the fuck's going on? Sometimes, folks, if your batteries are about to go bad, if you just change your batteries in your scale, that can actually level that out. So sometimes the batteries are starting to go dead. Your scale will fluctuate off and on.
Yeah.
And I tell people too, I'm like, hey, make sure you weigh at the exact same spot in your floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's really jumping around, step on it 5 times in a row. And if it's not super, super close and you fix the batteries and all that, just get a new scale. But dude, sometimes it's just the fucking scale itself, so to speak.
Yeah. They get old. I mean, they're not, these aren't high dollar purchases usually. So
yeah,
they wear out.
$30,
Yeah. I mean, if you're starting to get 5 different numbers, every morning, it's probably on its last leg, or like you said, check the batteries. But
Let's talk about this final one. A lot of people don't think about this, and I know it's a little different for everybody. I want to get your take on this, and then I'll add to it. Sometimes the readings after someone has an off day from exercise can be different versus the days after, because
Sure.
we're all exercising more days than we're taking off. So we'll just say someone's averaging 5 days, for
Yeah.
example. How someone weighs after those days of exercise and cardio versus a day off on their off day diet and no workouts, no sweating. The scale can be much different after an off day. What are you seeing on that?
Yeah. I mean, it honestly has to do, I feel like, more with the person and how good their metabolism is. And also what they do on their off days with their carbohydrates, right? I mean, so there's a lot of variables there. I know myself, my diet's the exact same on my off day. I just don't have my 60 grams of intra. That keeps things pretty easy. And although I'm fuller by pump on Monday, I really don't gain much scale weight. But now other people, even if they drop their carbs 60 grams and you give them 2 off days, their body, if they're not churning through those carbs pretty fast, they're going to go up a pound or 2 on Monday. It's just how it is. It's just from rest. And, I think you said in another episode, but, roughly 1 gram of carb holds like 2.7 grams of water along with it. So,
Right.
If you're not burning those off and you're storing them up, which you want to happen, so you hit the ground running hard on Monday, you're gonna gain a little weight come Monday morning.
Yeah. And the other thing too is if you're not exercising and you have a day off and you're just kind of sitting around, you're not sweating like normal. You're not moving around. You're not. It's just going to be different. So that's just one thing I always pay real close attention to. Whenever I'm analyzing, I have to really dig in super deep. So, dude, let's talk about the reasons why the scale drops too fast. And the first one I want to talk about is one that scares the shit out of all physique athletes, and that's muscle loss, man. So give me an example of when you see drops on the scale and when you're thinking, okay, this might be muscle loss. What are you normally looking at?
I'm going to be looking at area, like how close are we to the show and how lean are they? Because if someone just started the diet and they came to me pounding food, not really not really a bodybuilder who's on point or physique athlete who's on point, well, they might flush 4 or 5 pounds that first week. And so I'm looking at, in that case, I'm looking at, all right, their strength scores a 9, their energy scores a 9, their hunger's a 3. They're not losing muscle. You know what I mean? Like, that was water and just crap coming out of their colon. But if someone is 3 weeks out and they drop 4 pounds, then I'm worried. And then I'm pulling all cardio, probably pulling training for a couple of days and sending them for a double cheeseburger, maybe even a couple of them.
Right.
So yeah, it's all context and when and where in the diet phase you are. And for me.
Yeah, dude, I mean, that's everything I was going to say. And it especially becomes important, guys, when you're a natural athlete, because it can happen fast. And I do the same thing, man. The first thing I do is I drop the fucking steady state. And depending on HIIT, I might drop that too. And then I start feeding them at least for a day. And I've had that happen with a couple people here that are getting ready for earlier shows. And usually it's Subway. I'm going to send them to Subway and let them get a bag of chips with it, maybe a couple cookies if they really need the food, but like a 12-inch pizza sub or something.
Yeah.
And just
Sounds
fill
delicious.
back out. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Especially for my fat ass. I'm going to start dieting in a couple weeks, so I'm taking it all in. So, yeah, man. So muscle loss, obviously, that's something that people need to watch for. Something else is whenever you switch someone over. So, like, whenever I switch someone over, like maybe an insulin sensitivity reset, if you guys go back and listen to that episode, we talk about dropping people's carbs, upping their fats a little bit in place of those carbs. And what that happens is that depletes somebody. So if someone goes on a lower carb plan and they've been eating carbs, you're going to see a pretty damn good drop on the scale because you're losing glycogen. Is that something that you have to explain to people quite a bit whenever they're seeing that scale drop? Some guys might drop 5 fucking pounds the first week when you do something like a low carb reset. Females could drop 2 to 3. It just depends. Is that something that you have to explain quite a bit with folks when you switch them?
That one doesn't, for some reason, seem to cause as much alarm. I think they must kind of get it.
Or they like it. They like dropping.
Yeah, that, or, I think a lot of times when I do something like that, they've been pushing food for a while, and you know how it kind of gets when you finally are given like a chance to kind of like not be so stuffed, you kind of welcome it. So I don't think I get as much pushback. Like you said, they kind of like it. So I don't get as contacted about that one as much. It's not that I just don't have as much recollection about it.
Yeah.
But definitely it holds true. I mean, shit, anytime you cut your carbs in half, which is kind of what I do, my first step in a reset, sure, there goes, 2.7 grams of water per carb. That's definitely not going to be held. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because we'll go back to, we talked about salt increasing your weight. If someone has to lower their salt, obviously, for whatever reason, maybe they just did it and they didn't tell you. So it's always some of those things. I always ask a lot of questions. Has anything changed? Lowering salt, obviously, for a short amount of time, you can drop some water. If you would, you talked about aldosterone. Give people an idea of what happens. When people lower salt, I've helped somebody trying to make weight for a meet this week, right? And they were wanting to lower their salt. I'm like, listen, we don't have to do that. Talk about what happens when you lower salt for too long.
Salt is also one that keeps aldosterone at bay. And when you cut salt, aldosterone will actually start to increase so that your kidneys are reabsorbing the salt in your urine back into the body. So you really can't trick your body. So, cutting salt the final week for a bodybuilder is a horrible idea too. Now, I'm not saying there aren't times to taper it a little bit on Friday, but you should have it so high that taper isn't going to interfere with carb loading and or, cause aldosterone to kind of go haywire on you.
Right. Yeah, and aldosterone is one of those. I mean, a lot of people don't realize water follows salt. So it's if your body's causing it to reabsorb, if aldosterone, that hormone, causes you to reabsorb it, water is going to follow it. So I see plenty of people on low salt who are watery as fuck because of aldosterone.
Yes.
And they don't realize they're trying to drop water, but they're causing water retention.
Right. The best way to fix them would be salt and high water and give them a sleep.
Yeah. Exactly. Dropping creatine, dude, that's one that I see from my clients quite a bit. They'll drop and then I'm like, okay, hey, what changed? Did you stop doing anything? And a lot of them said, no, I want to cycle off creatine. Like, they don't know. They just think they need to cycle off. But obviously it takes a little while for creatine because, I mean, that shit stores up in your body for like 3-4 weeks. So it's going to take a while for it to deplete. But if you're in the off season and you quit taking it for a few weeks, you're going to see a drop, especially if you're a guy, you might see a couple pound drop. I don't cycle my clients on and off creatine. Do you?
No. I mean, I don't really see a need. The only time I would bring someone off is if they're getting like some wonky creatinine readings with kidneys and things like that. And usually there's something else going on, but at that point I don't want them to have to process creatine either. But otherwise, if someone's healthy and labs are good, I don't see a reason to do so.
Is there anything that would cause the creatinine levels, not creatine, folks, creatinine levels to jump up on a lab test besides creatine? There are a lot of like we're going to do a whole blood work
just episode. Training and the breakdown of muscle through and then it's filtered through the kidneys can cause that. So if you see some wonky kidney readings, a lot of times I'll find out, well, hey, did you hydrate that morning? No, not really. Okay. Did you train the day before? Yeah, I trained the last 4 days. Well, some people, then that would be why you would get some false positives. So I would then have them rerun later after making sure water, is done well. I might even pull back on their protein, get some astragalus in there, which has actually been shown to be the only supplement that really can, kind of regenerate the little filaments in the kidneys.
Right.
And then retest, but I would have them hydrate that morning and I'd have them not train for 2 days. And usually it all shakes itself right out.
Yeah, same thing, man. I usually tell my clients, hey, at least have a couple shakers of water before you go get labs.
Yes.
I mean, you can have more. It's not going to hurt you to have more,
No.
but at least have a couple. I know if I have 2 bottles of water on the way, my bun and everything else shows up okay.
Yep.
So,
Yep. But it's amazing what it'll look like if they, stay pretty dehydrated for, first 2 hours of the morning, go give it at 10 and they haven't eaten, they haven't, and then they go and then things are off a little bit and you start realizing. So now when I tell, blood work, I'm like, this is what I want you to do. I want you to have 40 ounces of water. I'd rather you book it on a Monday, just take off Saturday and Sunday. Like, all these things to kind of prevent some of these false positive scares that you can get from basically just building muscle, and the breakdown of muscle tissue as you're training can throw off some people's kidneys.
Definitely. So, man, the last 3, I think we can mention them, but I don't think we need to go into detail because we kind of talked about why the scale goes up. But it's we talked about extra sleep. When people get the extra sleep, and like you said, cortisol drops, their body can detoxify more, they can move more of that water that's in their body. Extra sleep, you'll see the scale drop pretty quick. And here's the thing. Whenever I see a client of mine, I talked about Grant on the last episode, one of my guys, he was dropping a lot. And he had got to sleep in for like Saturday and Sunday, and it was a lot. And I can't remember. He's probably listening. He's probably like 10 hours or something for both days. And he's a bigger guy. He dropped like 4 or 5 fucking pounds.
Yeah.
I'm not freaking out when that's happening because there's so much going on there. So when someone gets that much sleep, if you're off that much, that's a shit ton of cortisol dropping. First of all, if you've been getting shit sleep for a week or 2 and then you sleep in for a full weekend, your body is in such a better state. You're dropping cortisol and you're moving everything. And like you said, kind of detoxifying and fixing the body. I don't really worry about that too much. It's the days after that I start paying real close attention to, as far as like worrying about muscle loss and stuff like that. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you've hit that one on the head. And I mean, it makes perfect sense. If I knew those facts too, I wouldn't be overly alarmed either.
No. And then the other ones we've got, of course, water intake being off and the scale being fucked up. So, dude, I think we covered everything in detail, man, for everybody. Is there anything that you could think of? I mean, besides the fact-
I mean, I think we covered it pretty well. And I mean, it's not like an advanced topic. So, I mean, we've given it almost 50 minutes. That's pretty good. Yeah,
man. So if you're a client of mine or Jason's listening, we're laughing right now because you probably just got an email from us where you were worried about your scale weight. And we're like, hey, go listen to this episode. That's, if you're one of my clients, it's the real reason we did the episode, Jason, because I don't want to have to, send a 4-paragraph long email back. I could be like, hey, here's the link to the podcast Jason and I did. And if you have questions, hit Jason up with a question. So no, man, but we really appreciate you guys, and we hope that you really enjoyed this podcast. If you would, please hit pause. You guys have done great with the reviews. Please hit pause. Give us a real quick review, whether it's 5 stars, 4, whatever. As long as we get good feedback, that helps us, and it helps the podcast grow. So we really appreciate that. So, Jason, since you don't have anything else, man, we're going to get back to emails. For myself, Jason, we are out of here. Thanks, guys.
See ya.